Welcome into the newest episode of Side Mission. And if you're listening to us for the first time in a while, we apologize. We know it's been a long time. Life hit us hard, okay? Leave us alone. But it's the biggest episode of the year. It's our Game of the Year episode, our Side Mission Top 10. We're excited for it. Let's get the boys in here. Kyle Lynch, Matt Beck, they've been here from the start. What's up, fellas?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, it's good to be back.
Yes, sir. And we also have a new person here. You might notice there's 4 voices making his podcast debut. Alex Thacker. We just call him Thacker because, to be honest, calling him Alex, it's a little weird. So, Thacker, what's up, my man? We are super excited to have you on.
Man, it's good to be here.
Awesome. So, what do y'all say? We just go ahead and we get right into it. We start talking about this list because I'm really fucking excited.
I'm excited for this.
Our top 10 this year. There's a lot. Like last year, and I know Kyle and Matt, y'all remember this last year. Our lists were kind of similar. There was not a lot of mystery. We only had really 5 games that didn't make the list that got votes. This year, that's not the case. There's a lot of games that didn't make this list, and there's a lot of games that there's a lot of spots that they're going to surprise y'all. So first, I'll kind of run everyone through kind of how we did this. So I had those 3. I had them send me in their individual top 10s. I did one of my own, and we did it on a point scale. So if you put a game at number 10 on your list, it got 1 point, 9 got 2 points, 8 got 3 points, so on and so forth. So the number 1 spot, potentially, the best that a game could score is 40 points. So that's ultimately what the points are out of when you look at it that way. That's how we did it. So before we get into the top 10, before we start blowing minds, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go over the games that received votes but didn't make the list. I just told you we had 5 or 6 of these games last year. This year, we have 12. So, let's get right into them. First up on the Nintendo side of things, they're very prevalent here. New Pokemon Snap, Mario Golf Super Rush, Monster Hunter Rise, and surprisingly enough, despite the fact that they were lazy remakes, but still they were great games, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl all received votes but did not make the list. Before we move on, I kind of want to just see how everybody's feeling after hearing that. What's everybody feeling hearing that those games didn't make the list?
So honestly, I actually expected Pokemon Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond, or was it backwards?
No, you got
yeah, I was expecting those to be on there for sure.
I didn't play the game at all.
Yeah, I was I was probably the only one who didn't put those on my list, but I low-key expected those. Mario Golf, I think that I'm not terribly surprised about. And then the others I kind of see. Pokemon Snap was fun, but compared to some of the other games that we got this year, I think, honestly, if it had come out last year, it probably would have been in my top 10, but this year, there was a lot. We got so much more than we did last year, I feel.
Facts. Matt, what do you think?
Hearing what is on the hearing what's on that list is not very surprising to me. Pokemon Snap, it was a great game, but it really was just kind of by the numbers if you played the original Pokemon Snap. But it was a brilliant game. It was great to see a return to the franchise after so many years. Monster Hunter Rise kind of surprised me, but I did put like the most hours into that game. I just loved it. Reinvented the wheel and my love for Monster Hunter because I actually kind of got bored with World. Golf is another one I'm not really surprised by. It was fun, especially with friends, but once you beat the campaign, the online's not all that great. It was a bit of a slow burner with updates. But I mean, nowadays I know that the game has uploaded several new courses and characters. So it's good to see that they supported it for as long as they did. But that's where I'll leave that at.
I want to get Thacker's take too because 2 of these were on his list, and that was Mario Golf and New Pokemon Snap. Thacker, you had a bit of fun with Nintendo games this year for once, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm not much of a big Nintendo guy, but Pokemon Snap, coming from a 64 view on it and now on the Switch, it was a lot of fun. Whereas with Mario Golf, loved the gameplay, loved it together and everything, especially with friends, like Matt said.
Yeah.
But it was one of those that they weren't all that high on my list.
Mm-hmm. And
now, sorry, go.
No, you're good. You can keep going. You're good, bro.
Now with Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, that surprised me a little bit. Even though it wasn't on my list, it still surprised me with how much they put into that.
I'll tell you this. I think that with Pokemon Snap, where I struggled to put it on my list, and I can explain it here, and then I don't want to spend too much time on this because we've obviously got a lot of other stuff we got to cover. New Pokemon Snap just kind of felt like a one-dimensional kind of game, and when I say that, I'm not talking about like people are like, oh, it was in 3D. Clearly, no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that it felt like one part of the game was fun, and that was kind of it. It didn't really feel like there was you were there to do one thing.
Right.
And that was take pictures of Pokemon. Now, in terms of taking pictures of Pokemon, it's a great damn game for that. Mario Golf, I loved Mario Golf. I still play it to this day. I loved the Diamond and Pearl remakes, even though I thought they were lazy ass remakes. And then Monster Hunter Rise is a game that I think on PC I might like it a little bit more. So when it comes to PC, I might give it a try. But again, I thought it was a great game, but just they didn't get enough points to make the list. Now I'm really about to get some reactions because now we're going to take a look at the Xbox Game Pass side of things with the next group of games that didn't make the list. The following 4 games did not make the list but did receive votes. Forza Horizon 6.
Oh.
5.
Hitman 3.
Whoa. Wow.
Back 4 Blood.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
Wow.
And the big one, Psychonauts 2.
Dang.
What?
Okay. I quit.
No way.
I'm leaving now.
All of those. So I will give you guys reference real quick because I know you're probably curious. So the point totals that each of those games got. Psychonauts 2 was the closest to being on the list. It was off by 1 point.
It got robbed. Psychonauts 2 got robbed.
7 points. Forza Horizon 5 had 6 points. Did I say 6 on accident? I think.
Yeah, you're good.
Forza Horizon 5. My bad. People are gonna crucify me, but I'm sorry. It was an emotional moment. Sorry. Hitman 3 only got 3 points. LOL. And Back 4 Blood got a measly 1 point.
Dang.
Wow.
Those are probably some big shots right there.
Yeah. Big shocker with that
Psychonauts
one.
2, I really, when I was putting the list together, I was really expecting Psychonauts 2 to make the list. So it missed by 1 point, and that was kind of crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy.
There are 3 games left that did not make the list, and again, these are big games. So the Game Awards Game of the Year, It Takes Two, did not make the list.
What? Dude.
Wow.
Life is Strange, True Colors did not make the list.
Oh.
Okay.
And Guardians of the Galaxy did not make the list.
Wow.
No. Wow.
Guardians of the Galaxy got 3 points. It Takes Two got 6 points. And I'm looking for Life is Strange. I believe it only had 6 points as well. Or no, it only had 4. My bad. It only had 4 points. So, just a quick recap. Games that received votes but did not make the list. Pokemon Snap, Mario Golf, Monster Hunter Rise, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, Forza Horizon 5, Back 4 Blood, Hitman 3, Psychonauts 2, Life is Strange True Colors, It Takes Two, and Guardians of the Galaxy. All received votes, but did not make the list.
This really
shows Wait, what, Matt?
I was just gonna say this really shows how competitive this year has been in some very
that's true.
high-rated games this year.
Very true.
It's very true, and I think unlike last year, there was so much variation in our lists. You guys have no idea. Like I texted Kyle when I got on the list, and I said, "Oh, we finna have tiebreakers."
Yeah.
We finna have tiebreakers. Now, amazingly enough, we only have 1 tiebreaker, but I'm not going to get to that just yet. Because we have to start at our number 10 spot.
Yeah.
So, let's get this list started. Now, this one is going to surprise you guys. This one's going to surprise you. I'm not going to lie. It beat Psychonauts 2 by 1 point. It only made one of our lists. But 2 of us have played it. One of us has played the superior version. And the other has played the dog shit version that was on Nintendo Switch. Number 10, Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin.
I got called out.
But I want to talk about this because, Matt, I want to say, and I want to give you credit here, because yes, the Switch version was bad at launch. It was bad at launch. But they've I think they've mostly fixed it. To be fair, I think they've
Yeah,
mostly fixed it.
there's has been some improvements. Unfortunately, though, after you showed me it running on your laptop, running at that 60 FPS compared to the locked 30 FPS on the Switch. Because I remember when I was first playing it, and I was talking to you about it, and I was like, bro, every time I turn, there's like a 3 second delay. There are like pop-ins everywhere. And like I'm just running in the open field area, and all of a sudden these monsters just like randomly will pop in, and I'm just being all like, man, this is the most garbage. But like the game itself, is fantastic. I love the fact that it's like Monster Hunter. Well, it's more like Pokemon with a Monster Hunter
Yeah.
skin on it, and I think the story is fantastic. It kind of carries off from how the first gamers ended. Like the character that you're playing as is like the great grandson of the previous main character. Um, but yeah,
I want to
very
give
happy.
you a little bit of credit here, Matt. I actually
Yeah.
want to give you a little bit of credit. I'm gonna cut you off real quick.
Okay.
I want to
Yeah.
give you a little bit of credit here because I had no interest when this game first came out and picking it up. I had no
Hmm.
interest whatsoever until I found out it was on PC. I had just gotten my laptop at that point, and I was like, I kind of want a new game to play on that. Because of
Yeah.
you and what you said about the game, that you were enjoying it, I
Hmm.
picked it up. And honestly, like 45, 50 hours later, I still haven't beaten the game, but I have loved so much about this
Oh
game.
yeah, yeah. It's
And
a very lengthy campaign.
it's the environment, the monsters, the battles are addicting. I love it, man. Like it's the first time in a long time that I've truly enjoyed turn-based combat. And I mean, as someone who loves Pokemon,
Yeah.
like it really felt like a Pokemon game almost. So I really enjoyed it. So I'll let you continue what you're saying, but I think you deserve a little bit of credit. I got the game because of you, so you should be proud of that.
I'm very happy that you decided to take a look and pick it up and that you enjoyed it because I love it when games that I play that I know that the majority of my friends don't typically play pick it up and give it a shot and end up liking it. It's a great feeling, especially because it's something that we could talk about more and discuss like the story and other things that we like about it. Like I love how like the what's very kind of addicting is just like the rarity in the eggs of the monsters that you hatch that have better stats. Just like in Pokemon, they got better stats, and then there is the riding mechanic, which is actually really a lot of fun. And I love the combat system. It's a basic like a rock paper scissors. It's like speed, attack, and technical. I think,
I
and
think it's power, technical,
power,
speed.
technical, and speed.
The most
Exactly.
fun you'll ever have playing rock paper scissors, right?
Exactly. And it feels so good when you and your monstie, as they call them, like end up getting the same attack, and then you do like a team up attack, and you do a lot of damage. The boss fights are a lot of fun, especially for Monster Hunter veterans. You don't even have to like have played a single Monster Hunter game to get into this one and play it. There's just so much fun to be had here, and it's very pick up and play. It does have a difficulty spike. I'm not gonna lie. I've got my butt kicked a couple of times by the Narkuga, but I eventually beat him, and now he's on my team, and I'm riding on him. Woo!
Yeah. So that might be a little bit of a surprising number 10 spot because I know that again, like that was it ranked very high on my list because I truly did love the game. So it wasn't like it wasn't me ranking out of spite to get it onto the list. I want you guys to know. But I absolutely loved it, and I'm glad that it made it at number 10. So, with that being said, y'all remember that tiebreaker that I told y'all about? I talked about a
Yeah,
couple minutes ago. Y'all ready
yeah.
to hear what that tiebreaker was?
What is it?
So, we had a tiebreaker for the number 8 spot, meaning that the loser was still going to get on the list, but you were going to be at number 9. The
Oh,
tie-breaking system I had to keep from us having to do some convoluted gaming challenge, because none of us would have had time for that.
Yeah.
The tiebreaker I went with was between the two games, whatever game received more votes on more lists was what I went with. So the game that finished in 8th, which we'll get to here in a couple minutes, was on 2 lists. The game in our number 9 spot was only on 1. Not only was it on only 1 list, it was our gracious guest, Alex Thacker. It was his game of the year. It is
Oh.
Scarlet Nexus.
oh,
Oh.
what?
It was
Sorry,
his
bro.
game of the year. So Thacker, you've spent the most time with Scarlet Nexus, and I wouldn't say sorry. It still made the list. It
Yeah,
still made the
true.
cut.
Very
We
true.
still get to talk about it.
We're the
I
same
have not had a lot
podcast.
of experience. I haven't had a lot of experience with this game. But Thacker, I have to ask. I want you to tell me, why was this your game of the year? Because I'm genuinely curious.
So Scarlet Nexus was my game of the year on the simple fact of, for someone who does not play JRPGs, it was one that took me by surprise due to not only the beautiful graphics, but also the amazing soundtrack behind it.
Okay.
My only complaint with it was the combat felt a little button mashy, but they kind of made up for it with the ability to use your allies' abilities. And the stronger your relations with those allies were, the better the ability got. So after playing it for so long and really getting in depth in the story and realizing this is an anime as well, went back and started watching the anime and seeing how the anime not only complements the game but also interacts with it, because there are codes
cool.
that you can use from the anime that relate to the game, and you can use those codes and bring items into the game for your characters to build those relations.
That's pretty cool, actually. I
Like
like
that
that.
game just really stood out for me this year, and for all the games that I played, it was one that I still find myself going back and playing more of.
I want to get y'all's opinion on this because I feel like these first two spots, last year our first two spots, and we're about to get a laugh out of one of them. I already know.
I know. So bad. So bad.
Number 10 was Bug Snacks, and number
Yeah.
9 was Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I feel like those were games that a lot of people played, though, and I like how this year our first two games are. I think a lot of people played both of these games, but they're very different. These are
Oh,
not
yeah.
mainstream games by any means. And,
Yeah.
and Kyle, you haven't really had much of a chance to put a lot of input in yet. As a gamer, like, how much, like, what do you think that says about this year in gaming? That it feels like gamers this year, at least with us, it feels like we actually stepped out of our comfort zones a little.
Oh yeah, and studios as well. I feel like compared to last year, this year we got so much more. I would say variety in terms of content with not only just games coming out, but also like the DLCs that have come with games. Most famously, Far Cry 6's DLC has been amazing from what I've heard. I've only played so much of it, but like it was crazy that, spoiler alert, if you haven't beat the game, if you haven't listened to our episode, Voss is still alive and they brought him back. That was one of the craziest things in Far Cry that I didn't see coming. And then they dropped a whole DLC about Voss after, Jason supposedly killed him, but didn't. It was crazy, and there's a lot of games that were coming out that, were here, that were there. We had some narratives, we had some good, like I would say Kana was really, really good, independent,
Yeah.
almost cinematic kind of game. It wasn't full on just, action adventure, because those cutscenes was like I was watching a Pixar animated movie. Like I would go as far as to say as Kana is a cinematic experience with gameplay in it because of just how fantastic it looked. And there was so much this year that we got that was very different from last year, that these games that weren't mainstream are able to shine. Like even It Takes Two winning Game of the Year, that surprised me because there were some pretty big games above it that it had to beat, and that game outshined them to the critics, and that says a lot compared to what we got last year and what is to come next year.
I just want to say, because you brought Kana Bridge of Spirits up, and I really hate that game didn't even make like the game receiving votes list, because that's a high quality indie game, man. That is a high quality indie game, and I mean, it just goes to show. I think that this year, a lot of people have said this year is a down year for gaming. I just don't know how you say that, because I mean, again, like, we're a small podcast, right? But for us, two games, like I said, two games that stuck out to us were Monster Hunter Stories 2 and Scarlet Nexus. Now, yes, each of those only made one of our lists, but Thacker doesn't play JRPGs. I mean, you openly admitted that, right?
Yeah, like it's
And
one that just does not interest me that much.
exactly, and it's like that's the same for me. I'm not a big JRPG fan, but I like that two games that stuck out to the two of us were JRPGs, and not only stuck out to us. Monster Hunter Stories 2 was in my top 3, and Scarlet Nexus was his game of the year. That's awesome. So Scarlet Nexus, I think, is a game I would love to go back to at some point and give a try. Hearing the way Thacker spoke about it, hearing how much you loved it, that makes me want to go back and try it. So I'll give you that. Obviously we can't talk a lot about it because I didn't play it. I haven't played any of it. I know Matt's dabbled in it a little bit, and Kyle, I don't know really what your
Yeah.
experience was with it. I know it's not as much as Thacker. Exactly. So I mean, I wish we could talk more about it, but I mean, it is a game I'd love to go back and try. So now
I
the one
recommend
thing
it.
is this: the one thing with tiebreakers is this: where there's a loser of a tiebreaker, there's also a winner. So
Ooh.
Thacker, I regret to inform you that another game that you put on your list is the reason that Scarlet Nexus ended up in 9.
Oh no!
Oh, no.
Oh no!
Because coming in at number 8 is Mario Party Superstar.
Whoa.
Yo!
You know what? I'm
Mario
not even
Party-
mad about that. I'm not mad
Mario
about
Party
that.
Superstars. They both received 10 total points. Scarlet Nexus obviously got 10 from Thacker for it being his top game. And I think Mario Party Superstars as well got 10 total points between me and Thacker. But I think it's safe to say, and I think all of us will agree, Mario Party Superstars 100% is what Super Mario Party should have been. 100% is what that game should have been. It's got online play. It's got fantastic maps that have been redone from the older games, brought back over 100 of the mini games, and they're all fun. They're all frustrating, and I've been pissed off several times playing them. But I will say, this is one little fun thing that I decided to do with my profile, and I wanted to tell this story on here. So you know how you can like pick your favorite mini games and all that?
Yeah, right.
So I picked for my favorite mini games all of like the Squid Game mini games.
Oh, what? That's awesome.
Cutting out the fossil, the flipping the tile, red light, green light, essentially. With the
I'm so happy they brought that one back.
Like I picked all of like the Squid Game ones just because I thought, no, we'll probably get freaking sued by Netflix mentioning Squid Games, but it's okay. But let's talk about Mario Party Superstars. Matt, we'll start with you. You're the big Nintendo guy here. You've played a little of it. What did you think about it?
Honestly, I was hoping that, like, with the next Mario Party, that we would actually get like a brand new entry, not so much as taking some of the older maps from the N64 days, because it borrows from the first, the second, and the third Mario Party, and that's also where a lot of the mini games come from. But I understand it as a celebration of Mario Party because I think it's roughly about 15 and something odd years since we've had the very first Mario Party. So honestly, they chose a great selection of the mini games. Some of the most highest rated, I want to say cult classic mini games as well. And the N64 stages were some of the highest praised, from Space Mountain. What was the other one that they did? The birthday cake. There's so many iconic Mario Party levels, and when you're looking back at Super Mario Party, it was so bare bones. Like I put a lot of time into it with friends. It was fun, but they literally charge you $60 to give you 4 maps that barely had any space at all. I didn't like the fact that they cheapened the stars to how much that they would charge for the coins. It just made it so much easier.
Super Mario Party in the original one on the
Super Mario Party, the very first one
How
that came
out.
10.
Oh, that's lousy. I hate that.
10, because the stars have always cost at least 20. They made you work. They made it difficult to get the stars, and when you got the star, you felt accomplished. In this game, you get a star, and it's so like, I got a star. I mean, it's one step closer to winning, but it feels more accomplished with the older games, and especially at the fact that they brought that back with.
They are 20 coins in this one, right?
Yes, exactly. It's because just how they used to be. I think that people are going to complain. Now, the biggest thing that I'm super happy they did was they finally added online. And I know a lot of people were kind of like wondering, when's Mario Party ever going to get online? And I guess the thing with Nintendo is they always consider how they would handle people who would rage quit, because let's all face it, we all rage quit, or we all raged at a Mario Party game. We might have lost a friend or two during a game of Mario Party,
It's a Mario Party game. I don't even know what that is.
So I'm really glad that they brought the online portion of the game, and then they also brought back, as you mentioned, they brought back red light, green light, which is one of my favorites. They also brought back Flag Guy Says, or Shy Guy Says, with the flags. Yes. The Mushroom Gorge, where you have to run around on the mushrooms, and whichever the color that he picks is the one all the others will sink down to the water. Bumper Balls, I love that one so freaking much. Um, and seeing them all remastered, yeah, seeing them all.
That everybody loves.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually a funny clip on YouTube where it's called Luigi wins Mario Party by doing nothing, and the player playing Luigi just sits there, and all the other AI characters just roll around and knock each other off, and Luigi wins.
That's funny.
There's actually quite a few of them on there where it just says Luigi does nothing and wins Mario Party. But yeah, just seeing all these old games that I grew up with in the Nintendo 64 days and seeing them remaster and looking up to today's, I'm just gonna say Nintendo standards of graphics, because I mean, love it, but I mean, we're not talking PlayStation 5 or Series X and S levels of graphics, but Nintendo just has that charm with their cartoony style, and Mario Party fits the bill perfectly.
I'll be honest, this game was in my top 5. I'll be really honest. This game was in my top. I loved this. I love this game. Like, Matt was really critical there, but I love this game. I don't have near the issues that Matt just had. I think the game is fantastic. So
yeah,
Kyle, I know you and Taylor have played a little bit, so I have to ask: do we need to worry about your marriage over a game of Mario?
No, not at all, dude. Because I'm always gonna win. No, don't tell her I said that, dude. But no,
tell her I said that.
no, I love the game. Honestly, it's much better than Super Mario Party, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was 100% what it should have been. What a game should have been. But guys, I think that as we get to our number 7 spot, I think that we can all agree Kyle hasn't talked enough.
Yeah,
Kyle
Agreed.
hasn't talked enough. So for our number 7 spot, and I just want to give you a little reference, this next game had 11 points, had 1 point more than Superstars and Scarlet Nexus. So Kyle, for our number 7 spot, I guess it's the Platinum Run because it's Returnal.
Damn, let's go! Oh my god, dude!
I'm bringing back some PTSD with that one.
Man, dude, Returnal.
Timberlake brought sexy back, and I'm bringing PTSD back. So here we go,
dude.
Let's talk about Returnal because it's a hard game, but I think that all of us that have seen it and have played it can all agree there's a great game.
Absolutely. That game, the reason I actually made it my game of the year was solely because that game pushed me harder than any other game has ever pushed me, because I don't rage quit very often. I will take a beating from a game before I rage quit. And when I tell you, I had come so close to breaking my brand new DualSense controller so many times, I physically had to get up and not put it in rest mode, I had to turn my PlayStation off because I knew I could not turn it on for the rest of the day. That game was so frustrating, and at the same time, every single run where I got further and further, I felt so accomplished. And by the time that I was actually beating the game over and over, I could run through levels, and it was insane, the amount of projectiles being thrown at you, the amount of enemies on screen, and like, it was so wild that I was actually like dodging all of this stuff and effectively taking out enemies, because back when I first started this game, it was so I legitimately thought about deleting the game because it was so hard. I was just frustrated. Yeah, like it was.
yeah.
Rusty actually got me into the game, and I was thinking early on. Yeah. I was thinking early on, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. This game is way too hard. But something just kept pushing me to keep going, and I ended up loving the game so much that I platinumed it. And it is actually, I believe, my rarest platinum. That is...
It's a hard platinum.
Oh, yeah. If you have that platinum, I commend you. That was the hardest shit I have ever done in gaming. I mean, that was so insane. And I really, really would like to see more of, if they give us a Returnal 2 or if they do DLC, I think that would be awesome. But I think there's something bigger here. This was the first kind of 3D roguelike that we had seen on console, and it really redefined the genre and, what could be for the future. We could see other games, maybe not a Returnal 2, but maybe, another 3D open, kind of roguelike sort of game where it's not a top-down grid, system. It was so different. And as a person who plays quite a few roguelikes, I was really excited for how new this felt. Even though I know what roguelikes are like. You go through, you pick up items, you die, you play it again. You go through, you pick up items, you die, you play it again. But this game just felt like a new experience over and over, and I loved the environments, the enemies, the weapons. I mean, everything was just so beautiful. And the number one thing I have to praise this game for is how it showed off the capabilities of the PS5. The particle effects on screen were, I mean, just mind blowing. The fact that this game was running at a smooth 60 FPS and 4K with the amount of things happening on screen when you would kill enemies, the amount of particle effects that would come off their bodies, when you would break things, or when you'd even move through the grass, there would be like little, particles of light that would flow up. And that is really, really difficult to achieve on, a game that's not on PC and make it run and look that well. I mean, it really, aside from, how smooth and great the game looked, it was really a showcase alongside with Ratchet and Clank what the PS5 could do and what we could be getting, next year and beyond.
Jesus, Kyle, get a fucking room with this game, bro. No, I think a lot of what you said there is true, though. I think that the biggest thing is that I think this is not just the first 3D roguelike. It's one of the first real mainstream ones. Like this
That's
game
true.
was heavily advertised. It was heavily marketed to the public. And I think that there's a lot to be said about making a roguelike essentially mainstream. Hades kind of did that last year, and it's a very, very popular game. A lot of people thought it should have won Game of the Year.
Yeah.
But I think that Returnal is definitely going to be something that it's a landmark game in terms of how much we're going to see roguelikes moving forward in mainstream. So, from one game that's pretty hard to another, let's talk about our 6th ranked game, shall we? Because once again, going up by 1 point to 12 points, our number 6 game is also our last Nintendo game on the list, and that is Metroid Dread.
What? Dude.
All right.
So, I'm going to start with Thacker because it was on your list, and we'll go over to you, Matt. But Thacker hadn't talked in a minute, and I want him to talk a little bit. He's our guest, and also Matt, we don't
be our guest.
So, Thacker, talk about Metroid Dread, man. What did you like about it, and why did you put it on your list?
Man, so that game was on my list for a couple reasons. From coming on the nostalgia, just from Metroid alone, it really just brought something new. I mean, we waited, what was it, Matt?
About 14 years.
Exactly. 14 years for that game. And having a new one just really brought the memories back. So that was the main reason. The side pieces for that, though, were the combat was just beautiful. The challenge behind the bosses just really made you think how to actually complete each different boss. But it was one of those that beautifully made. Just wish I could put more time into that one for sure.
So Matt, what about you?
I'll say this. For as Metroid Dread, I definitely think that would put that at number 2 on my list. Surprisingly, not my game of the year. It almost did. I'm not gonna lie. It almost did, but it just didn't quite hit the nail on the head for me. But I'll say
it's hard
about.
For me to believe that because you said that Guardians of the Galaxy was your game of the year, then you put it at 10.
Yeah, I know. I think I had a very bipolar game of the year, decision making.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So for Metroid Dread, it basically for me it meant the world to actually get this game because Metroid Dread has been teased for many years, even far as back as a nice little tease in Metroid Prime 3 Corruption back on the Wii. There was a line if you were on a Federation ship and you actually were doing some exploring, you would find a codex page or whatever, and you scanned it, and it would say Metroid Dread coming to completion. Now, Metroid Dread has been rumored for a very long time, as far back as since Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance, which was the last game in the mainline Metroid 2D side-scrolling series outside of Metroid Prime. What Metroid did so perfectly well is it lived up to the name Dread, because in the game there are sections in the game where there are these robot AI called the Emmys, and during their sections they are so agile. Some are fast, some can go invisible, and the moment they catch you, it's almost an instant death. So it adds a perfect challenge. It gives you a slight option, like a quick time event, or if you time it just right, you can get away and stun the Emmy, and it keeps up with the Metroid tradition of how the map is, where there's hidden upgrades everywhere. The game map is ginormous. It's what I expected from the team behind the same team that made Metroid 2 Samus Returns last year on the 3DS, which was a remake of the original Samus Metroid 2. The boss fights really had you really had you thinking. Some were very easy, and then you had some that broke the mold that you expected from a 2D Metroid game. And it did a lot of things new, and it felt so familiar, but it also felt so fresh at the same time. And it was just really great to see a character like Samus have such a strong comeback after the abysmal piece of crap that was Metroid Other M. Don't get me started on that. Now all I want is Metroid Prime 4, and I'll be very happy.
Yeah, I think you heard. I think that you two have convinced me. Like, that game is absolutely worth giving a try. I don't know how I feel about a 2D side scroller kind of in 2021. But I mean, I've heard a lot of people say it's a great game. So one of these days, I think I'll be willing to try it, and I think Kyle would probably say the same. With that being said, we have now reached our top 5. Just so everybody is aware how big of a jump we're actually about to make. Metroid Dread had 12 points. Our number 5 game has 20 points. And the difference between the second overall spot and the 5th overall spot is 5 points.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Our top
That's
5,
crazy.
Our top 5 was close. So, let's get into it. First, in the number 5 spot, if you had told me at the beginning of the year that this game would have been 5th, I would have told you absolutely not. It's my game of the year favorite. And I love this game. And I'm excited to talk about it. Coming in at 5, it's Far Cry 6.
Ooh, let's go.
All right, yeah.
Interesting.
Far Cry 6, another fantastic entry into the Far Cry universe, in my opinion. Kyle talked a little bit about it earlier. I was going to throw a little joke in there about, just remember Far Cry 6, because we're going to talk about it here in a bit. But Far Cry 6, I have said that the best way to describe this game, it is definitive next-gen Far Cry.
Yeah.
100% it is. In
Absolutely.
terms of the gameplay,
sure.
the way it runs, how smooth everything is. I love the environments. I think that you really get immersed in the environments. The big thing for me in Far Cry games is the environment has to pull me in. So in Karat in Far Cry 4 and on the island in Far Cry 3, and I think that Yara did that for me as well. I think that that's what Far Cry 5, where I kind of lost something, was that it being in, a fictional county in Montana, environment's just not all that interesting, It's just, backwoods hillbillies. I mean, I live in Cookeville, Tennessee. I see this.
It's grass everywhere.
I see grass all the time, Like, not a shot at Cookeville. I love Cookeville, but I live in Tennessee. Like, I see this all the time. So, I think that was where Far Cry 5 kind of lost me. Far Cry 6 pulled me right back in because of how diverse it is. Because there's some towns that, feel like Central American towns do. And there's jungles, and there's beaches, and there's army bases. Like, it's so varied. And I like that. I love that it didn't feel the same. Now, there were issues in the game. There were some pacing issues in the story, especially a certain concert mission, Kyle, that me and you discovered that we hated. But I think the number one thing that was fantastic in this game that we can all agree on was Giancarlo Esposito's performance as Anton Castillo.
Yes.
Hands down.
Loved
Getting
him.
another fantastic villain in the Far Cry lore, adding to Vas Montenegro, Pagan Man, Joseph Seed, the Jackal from Far Cry 2. He was fantastic in this game. Thacker, I'll start with you. What did you love about this game? Because I think that there's a lot to love in this game.
So with that game, I loved a lot on it. From being able to explore every little bit of the island, being able to find these exclusive weapons from different treasures and everything like that, and
Yes.
even having that small little Easter egg of being able to finish the game early
Hmm.
just by driving a boat all the way to Florida. Um,
Get your trophy.
exactly, yeah. Um, it was just a great game altogether, but I think the one thing that stood out the most, that brought the most to me, at least for Far Cry 6, was having that new mechanic of the Supremo.
Oh, yes, loved it.
Yes, I love that.
That was one thing that just stood out the most, and being able to utilize that with the different versions and mechanics for it just really stood out the most, outside of the beautiful graphics, of course.
I agree. I love the Supremo, dude. That was awesome. Kyle, you're a big Far Cry fan, like I think a lot of us are at this point. Um, where does this game for you? Where does this game stand in terms of all the games?
Ooh, I would say this game is somewhere between Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4 for me. Because Far Cry
I agree.
4, I think, was probably my favorite. Just because, the amount of fun I had with the co op on that game. I mean, what a big upgrade from the dog shit co op that was Far Cry 3. Um,
Max,
Even though I think in Far Cry 4, you weren't able to do story stuff until Far Cry 5, I didn't need it, honestly. Taking out the outposts and going and doing just these little missions here and there with my friends was so much fun. And like you said, the environment was so beautiful. And you know I think that Far Cry 4 was where they first that was where you could grapple
yep.
helicopters and vehicles and stuff like that. And I have so many memories of either me driving around a friend who is swinging from my helicopter or me swinging from a friend's helicopter. And it's just, it was, there was so much goofiness. Like you could have somebody grappled to your helicopter, lower them down into an airbase, and just they just wipe it out and go on to the next one. It was, there was so much wackiness. And at the time, I think it was so perfect for where Far Cry was. And I think Far Cry 5 just, it tried to do too much. And Far Cry 6 brought it back to that serious tone that we felt in Far Cry 3, with just enough wackiness from Far Cry 4 where it didn't take away from the serious tone, but also at the same time wasn't, this hyper realistic game, because we were still able to go out and do all kinds of crazy goofy stuff.
I agree. Matt, I think that a lot of people, when it comes to Far Cry games, and I agree at this point with this notion that a Far Cry game is as good as its main villain.
Absolutely.
And if you can, if you're the villain and you're not able to land with the audience, you're gonna have a tough time. Well, I know based on the conversations me and you have had, I don't know how Giancarlo Esposito did not get a Best Performance nomination.
Because of the memes. When it came to the Game Awards, the voice actress of Lady Dimitrescu, don't get me wrong, she did a fantastic job, but come on, nobody was going to give up the opportunity to vote for Lady Dimitrescu. Come on.
That's a fact,
Half,
yeah.
It's one
half
of
of
those
the
things where
year
Big
I
was
love
all
facts.
memes.
dedicated to her.
I love memes, but like that meme really ran its course really
Yeah,
quickly.
absolutely. Especially if you
So
played Resident Evil Village, you know why.
exactly, exactly. So, but Far Cry 6, fantastic game. I think we all loved it. I mean, it comes in at number 5. It's top 5. That's got to be something. So,
I do want to point out one thing I loved about this Far Cry in general is the fact that I make complaints about these open world games being way too big. I mean, Far Cry 6 is no exception to that. But the diversity of travel in this game is incredible. From the boats, from the what is it, the hang gliding,
wingsuit, yeah.
the wingsuit, the different vehicles. They did a fantastic job at really showcasing the traversity of this, especially with the fact that they put those paths that you could follow instead of having to stick to the main road. But I think that that was a fantastic addition that really, and it made sense with the story because the guerrillas used those paths to travel to avoid detection from Castillo's army. So the fact that they managed to get that in there and made the traversity with the grapple hook, being able to climb up the mountains or zip line down, they did a great job at demonstrating how an open world game should be.
I agree 100%. So again, at the beginning of the year, I probably would have thought this game would be a lot higher on the list. But I mean, hey, top 5's not bad at all. I couldn't hate that at all. So
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic placement for it.
So let's get into number 4. 2 points above it with 22 points. So I think we can all agree that the first year of next-gen systems, PlayStation 5 has been pretty freaking solid, I think, right? Like,
yes.
We've had some really, really good PlayStation 5 exclusives. We've talked about one already, Returnal. We're not going to talk about one for number 4 because number 4 was when Xbox decided to finally join the party and release Halo Infinite.
Oh my god.
Halo Infinite. They finally have their next-gen exclusive, and spoiler alert, it's pretty freaking good. It is pretty freaking good. I know we've all played the multiplayer. Kyle has played about 2,000 hours of the game already. I wish I was joking. It's probably a lot closer to like 200, which is still absurd because he tells us he can't game with us.
Yeah, if you're including the multiplayer, then yeah, he's definitely put a lot of hours into this game.
All jokes aside, though, Halo Infinite is a real, really, really, really nice return to form for Halo. Coming off Halo 5 Guardians was a really disappointing game. Kyle, you're the biggest Halo fan I know, man. Tell me what you loved most about this game.
All right, so I'm going to try and talk about it with no spoilers, but this game almost did not make my list.
Man dies, okay? Jesus.
This game almost did not make my list until I beat the campaign, and I gotta say, from beginning to end, this game was a wild ride. There's some issues. This is not a perfect game, but I felt like the core elements were there. There was character development, or there was character growth, I felt, with Master Chief from beginning to end. Obviously, minor spoiler alert, Cortana is dead, as we found out in the very beginning, before you even leave the tutorial, that somewhere between Halo 5 and 6, Cortana died. So, they replace her with this new AI called the Weapon. You don't find out her name until the very end of the game, but I was very, very put off by them introducing a new AI after I grew up with Halo. Like, yeah, Cortana was the AI. Like, it was Cortana and Master Chief. That's how it was. It was so off-putting. And by the end of this game, I actually felt attached to that character. I feel attached to this AI, and like, I don't want her to leave. Like, I actually love the character so much so that, dare I say, if they choose to replace Cortana with her, I will accept it, because she has so much character and personality that she didn't feel like, just a bland replacement for, plot reasons. It was, the way they explain everything, it was done so well. It was all done really, really well, and I really loved the character interactions with her and Chief, and, the interactions with the enemies. Like, the grunts are so damn funny, dude. When, like, you'll be out in combat, and then they're just, like, yelling absurdities at you, just saying the dumbest shit, and it's so funny. I loved the multiplayer of Halo 5, and I hated the story. I think this game did really well with bringing back a good story and giving me a good, kind of mesh of that modern-day Halo that we got in Halo 5, and a little bit, of a setback with the abilities and all the crazy dumb shit that they added that nobody liked. They took out that stupid Warzone game mode that was complete garbage. Honestly, all I really have to complain about with this game is the Battle Pass progression, which they've been working on, but it was so bad when it launched. But I really think that this game, if it's the last Halo game, I will be okay with that too. If they just end it here and they drop a DLC for the story, and we just continue with the Halo multiplayer, I think that would be great, because this was an ending to Master Chief's story. I don't need any more than this, and I I really think that trying to continue would just be doing too much.
So we all played a lot of Halo 5 Guardians multiplayer. We all played a lot of it together as well back when the
Yeah.
whole, the Spider-Man villains meme was a thing. With all of our profile pictures on Xbox.
Dude, the good
How did I get
days.
stuck with Rhino still?
Hacker still is that. Like
He is.
Oh,
mine
come
and
on.
Kyle's is KSI.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to update our profile pictures for the boys.
We did Grogu.
Oh, we did do Grogu as well. So
I'm glad I wasn't there for that one.
Oh, that was fun. You shut up. We were Baby Yoda's disciples, damn it. Anyways, back to Halo. Let's talk about the multiplayer a little bit because I want to know, like, we all played a lot of it. Matt, Thacker, and either one of you can go ahead with this. Where do y'all think the multiplayer improved from Halo 5 Guardians to this?
Player, well, I learned this. I never take a sniper rifle from Thacker again. Or at least if you're going to, at least be able to aim.
Man.
Yeah, if
You better be able to aim if you take one.
Yeah, let's just say I found it near him, and I took it, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get some headshot. Now I completely wasted all the bullets in it. The multiplayer, I don't know what it is that makes this multiplayer so much better than what we got in Halo 5 Guardians. Like, I mean, that was fun too. I mean, we get up in a party, and the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get a Warthog, and we're gonna go, let's ride, and all that. But I think for me, it's partially the map designs are better. I think that the fact that you're not instantly already given these abilities, but they're just kind of scattered around the place, and you can grab them, such as the grapple hook, which feels very satisfying when you have a grapple hook and you see an enemy. Because believe me, your enemies are going to be in all the vehicles on the map. So if you're not fast enough, so it's really really satisfying when you grapple onto an enemy's vehicle and you just take it from them. My only complaint that I have, and I know that they're only doing this because of the battle pass, which is very frustrating, is how random the modes are. Yes, they have added more, but in the very beginning, they just released the multiplayer. I'm sorry, I don't want to play capture the flag 7 times in a row. I don't want to. I don't want to play oddball constantly, but they're doing it so they can balance out how the challenges work. And back on the battle pass, I mean, I don't want to really put this at the forefront of the multiplayer, but it's kind of in your face about it. And I was curious to check out the store, and Jesus Christ, the prices on these cosmetic items is ridiculous. For a skin color, I'm not fixing to pay $10 just to change the color of my Spartan's armor. But the progression system has improved a lot. I just wish that you got more experience based off how you performed in the game and not so much what you did in the game for the challenges. So I hope in the future they continue to make improvements on that. But Halo is always going to be known for its multiplayer, and Halo Infinite's multiplayer is no different. I feel like that this will carry on the game until whatever next Halo that we see.
Oh yeah,
and it's going to stay strong. They'll keep updating it. They've already updated some of the more beloved modes like SWAT and all that, so it's great to see it back. I don't think we got zombies yet, so I do hope we can get that, or infected, as they call it. There's a lot to be done here, but at the same time, it is the Halo multiplayer that we all know and love and grew up with.
Yeah, fun fact, don't quote me on this, but I believe this was the most expensive game ever made. This game, Halo Infinite, cost $500 million to make.
Well, yeah, there's that year delay.
Yeah, $500 million and a whole year delay, and they spent it on a grapple hook. I'm done.
Hey, I'm going to say this about Halo.
I think that's a good place to move on.
I'm going to say this about the grapple hook right quick. If you're going to do an open world game and you don't have a grapple hook, I don't want it.
Yeah, for real. I think that Kyle dropping that on us, I think it's time to move on.
I can agree.
We have reached the top 3. And oh boy, these 3 games. Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Let's see the heartbreak.
So, number 3, with 24 points, 2 above Halo Infinite. It's a PS5 exclusive, and it was what I called the biggest surprise of the year. It is Deathloop.
Okay. All right.
Ooh, let's go.
That's a good placement.
Deathloop 100% for me was the biggest surprise of the year. We got so many trailers and so many events that showed this game off, but at no point did we have any idea what the fuck this game was.
Yep, never doubt Sony.
Clue. We had no idea what this game was, but it's fantastic. I loved how they did the day-night cycle, where you could go to any of the 4 districts, and while you're there exploring, time doesn't move forward until you leave. You don't feel like you're on any kind of time constraint. You can explore to your heart's content. I love how even when you have to reset loops or when you die, you maintain all the information you learned. Love that. And I love that the gameplay felt more streamlined here than it's ever felt for me in Dishonored. Because I think the Dishonored games are quality games, but the gameplay has always felt a little rough around the edges for me. It's never felt smooth enough. This game did not have that issue. I thought the gunplay felt weighty, and it felt like when you shot a shotgun at somebody, you felt the kick, especially in the DualSense. You felt that kick, and I loved this game. Kyle, me and you damn near obsessed about this game when it came out, dude. We obsessed like shit about it, dude. What made this game a great game, in your opinion?
For me, it was the innovation. I think it was, like you said, the day-night cycle was, personally, I think that was something that we've never seen before. I mean, being able to go to an area during a specific time and not have time progress until you leave that area, that was really cool because, it still implements this sense of urgency. Like, I have to get things done in this area during this time period because once I move on, I can't just come back. But at the same time, it didn't force you to, have 5 minutes before it's afternoon and then all of a sudden it's gone. You can spend as much time here as you'd like, and you can go on exploring and do this and that, and I really, really loved that. Was my favorite mechanic in the game.
Matt, I want to talk about the game's story because I think that is an aspect of this game that really got severely overlooked. Because the story of this game is really, really interesting, and it's really deep and connected. And it's a lot of people have compared it to maybe kind of a From Software game where it's more about notes you pick up, items you pick up. It's not as much about cutscenes, right? But I don't know. Like, there was a part of me that, even though I had to read, I felt very invested in this game's story, Matt. What did you think about the story, Matt?
I thought the story was brilliant, honestly. I like the fact that it's like you said, you didn't have to watch a bunch of cutscenes to really get the story. The story pretty much just revolved around each time that you went to a different district. And it was just listening into the conversations from the enemies. And It's like collecting all the clues that you could find, which I love the fact that, as we mentioned it before, that you retained all the clues. Like, when you find them, that you get to keep it. And then you use those clues to basically figure out the best way to approach a situation to take out the what do they call them?
Visionaries, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the storytelling is so strong just because of the fact that it's pretty much, you have to pay attention to the world, you have to pay attention to what you're reading. And I'm just gonna say this: so many twists, so many things I didn't expect. Um, the cast was brilliant. It was all brought to life out by the voice actor of Cold and what's her name? Yeah, yeah. Everyone did such a fantastic job in like bridging you into the game and making you want to learn more and figure out exactly how you're supposed to approach every situation. Because at the end of the day, to beat the game, you have to have what is called the perfect loop. You have to be able to get everybody where they need to be, and you do that by finding all of the right clues, finding out exactly how do you get certain people to be together. And it's just the first time I've ever seen a game do this, and it does it so perfectly.
This game featured my personal favorite side mission moment of the year, and that's in the episode me and Kyle recorded when he called Charlie, one of the visionaries, and I quote, just a big fucking baby.
Look,
that was what he called him, and I love that.
Dude, he was, though.
But hearing you guys talk about so much, I entered into a contest at work to try to get a free game. This was one of my top 3 games that I asked on that list, and it just so happened I got the email today. I won it, and I am so excited to start playing it.
Oh hell yeah! That is
Definitely.
one that I can't wait. I'm so glad you got a PS5 so you can play it, but I can't wait to see you play it so you can like kind of see. Hopefully the same thing we all saw because I think a lot of people in IGN or GameSpot put out that this game got a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, "Oh well, it's got flaws," and I'm like, "Sure, it's got flaws, but so does every game." I mean, my favorite game of all time is Bloodborne, and I think Bloodborne does have some flaws in it. I love a lot of games that probably have problems. In fact, the 2 games that we have left to talk about both probably do have issues. But I could also see where you could give them both 10 out of 10. So it's like I think Deathloop is a masterpiece. It's masterclass game design, is what I've said before.
Yes.
And I will say that, and that's the hill that I'll die on. So let's move into the big reveals. I am excited. I'm excited for these last 2.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Oh man.
Number 2 with 25 points. Deathloop was 1 point away from potentially being in a tiebreaker.
Uh-huh.
It was a game that I loved every second of playing. I had so much fun playing this game. I've beaten it many times now. And it gave me love for a franchise that maybe I didn't quite love enough before. Coming in at number 2, Resident Evil Village.
Whoa, huh?
Ooh, let's go.
Resident Evil Village.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
That's high
going,
up there.
You have me
I
going.
have to
lie.
say, probably this year, probably my favorite video game environment. I have to say, probably my favorite.
Yeah.
The village, the entire map, I really loved, and I liked how different each area was. Like you had the Dimitrescu Castle. You had the reservoirs. You had Heisenberg's factory, which was really cool. But I think, and Kyle's about to get some PTSD brought up here. The dollhouse.
The dollhouse.
One of the best Resident Evil village, or one of the best Resident Evil puzzles to date in the franchise, in my opinion. Kyle, again, it's a franchise you love. It's a franchise you love. Tell me about Village, man. And you seemed kind of surprised that it made it this high.
Yeah, I definitely did not expect it to take. I'm really happy that it took number 2 because I think I ranked it like a little bit lower than my 4 and 5. But I absolutely loved the hell out of this game. And yes, that dollhouse. There are not a lot of horror games that will physically make me scream. And when I came out of the door and I saw those entrails leading down the hallway, and I was like, what's this? Thinking, it's just going to be some jump scare when I get to the end of the hallway. And then this giant fucking baby just starts coming around the corner, and I am defenseless. There is nothing that I can do. I have no choice but to turn around and just run. I was physically screaming because I had nothing to do. I was like, I'm done. I'm doomed, dude. It was so terrifying. And you have no weapons. You have nothing. All you can do is run away from it and just pray to God. But this whole game, I think, it really could have been longer, and I don't knock it for not being, because the length I felt at first was a little too short, but going back and replaying, it's one of those games where you can play it over and over, and there's actually a trophy for beating it in like 3.5 hours or something.
Not gonna happen.
And like it's
it's less than 2 hours.
Going through the game multiple playthroughs, I think, is how the game was meant to be played, because there's so many little story things that I feel like you don't pick up on the first time that you go through, but the second and third time you might notice, or there's some character quirks that you might pick up on a little earlier, or some hints here and there. That it's just so much to dissect in this game through multiple playthroughs. I really don't feel like one playthrough is enough. And with that being said, if the game was longer, I don't think it would have enticed people to replay it over and over. And I at first I didn't like it, but as time went on, I think this game benefited from being shorter. I don't know why I ended it there. That was fucking weird.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna leave this. I'm not even gonna fucking edit that out. You know, I'll tell you where this game got a lot of points was because Thacker put it at number 2. Believe it or not, I
All
put it top
right.
5. I put it top 5, and you and Matt both put it around 7 or 8. I think it's where both of you kind of ranked
Yeah.
it. But Thacker, you put it at number 2. You thought obviously very highly of it. I know when we talked about it when it first came out, you loved it. Talk about why you loved Village so much.
So, coming from someone who's played Resident Evil a lot, with the exception of the VR editions, Village stood out to me. I borrowed it to play and instantly realized this was one game I did not need to borrow. So I gave it back and instantly turned around and bought it. And as soon as I did, I realized this was not a mistake. Seeing the just what's the word I'm looking for? Just seeing the characters come together throughout all of it was one of those that just stood out fantastically. And then seeing the challenges and seeing what the rewards were and seeing how challenging it was just impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yo, you talking about
Uh,
the bird cages?
No,
yeah, the bird.
the remember the little things you have to get the puzzle that you'd have to get that little ball for it and you put it in. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really that was
The
different.
Yeah.
crystals and everything.
Yeah, that was cool.
Impressive. But also seeing the side missions and everything after beating the game, to where I think one of them you get a lightsaber in the entire game playthrough after beating it.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah, it was one of the missionary, or I think they were called
missionaries. Yeah,
missionaries.
missionaries.
Yeah, the missionaries. Playing one of those, I think it was the last one. If you beat it and got triple S rank on it, you get a lightsaber that you can use throughout the entire game.
That's crazy.
It was
That's crazy.
impressive.
I have to check that out.
I have tried it so many times.
Not gonna happen.
It's a challenge, guys. I will tell you that. It's a challenge. But from that and
I wanted to add on to something you said because you mentioned like the side stuff, and I wanted to see if you guys thought this too. And Thacker, I'll stay with you here. I liked how throughout the game, as you like moved the story forward, different areas changed.
Yeah.
Like new
Yeah.
enemies would inhabit new areas. Like the graveyard outside of the elevator to get to the dollmaker's house. If you go back to that area after you fight, after you find, what you need to get into the tomb, you go back and there's that big enemy that's there that just eats bullets. And when you're not expecting it and you just run down there and he comes out from behind the corner, oh my god!
That was a challenge there.
Yeah. So Thacker, what else for you made this game work?
What really impressed me on it was there wasn't a lot of jump scares, but the few that were there stood out, from the old lichen in the cornfield to the giant boar outside the graveyard. Even just trying to collect the rare meats for the Duke's recipes were just challenging in itself. And it just really brought a new light to how much Resident Evil can actually bring to the table.
Can I tell y'all about the biggest jump scare in the game for me? And
Lord.
So it's actually tied to that other jump scare I just talked about. When you're going back to that area, kind of that covered walkway. That like one house you walk past and you go in and there's one of those puzzles and all that. Well, when you go back to that area, your original pathway is blocked. So you have to go into that covered walkway. Well, when you walk out into that little yard area, there's just this big ass mountain goat.
Yep.
That's just sitting there, and that thing scared the shit out of me. I'm not even gonna cap. I'm not even gonna cap. I think I was playing the game. I was at my parents' house. My mom was watching me. She loves horror stuff like that. And we audibly both said, "Oh shit!" when we walked in the corner. Like I kid you not, it was so funny. So, but there's so much to love about this game, man. Like, and the characters were great too. You know, I thought Mother Miranda was kind of disappointing as the main villain.
Yeah.
But I loved the four lords, man. I loved like the hidden kind of lore behind each character, and especially the Duke. I just found like all the characters were so interesting. There's a lot to love about that game. So I think that it coming in at number 2, definitely a very, 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 very deserving spot. With that being said, it's time to reveal our 2021 Side Mission Game of the Year.
Oh, I wonder what it could be.
Boy, if you haven't figured it out,
Woo!
you're kind of fucking dumb. I wish I could, give like a good intro to this to do it justice, but I'm just gonna leave you with this. Our number 10 game was Monster Hunter Story. It had 8 points. Our number 2 game was Resident Evil Village. It had 25 points. Coming in with our Game of the Year for 2021 with a grand total of 36 points.
Wow.
Ooh, wow.
Okay.
Out of a potential 40.
Almost perfect.
It's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Let's go!
Yeah.
There we go.
Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. One of the only games, believe it or not, that made all 4 of our lists.
Wow.
I believe it.
There were not many games that made all 4 of our lists. There were not many of them. But this one, the lowest it got ranked was 4th overall by Thacker. It got ranked, I believe, 2nd overall by Kyle. And me and Matt both gave it our personal game of the year. So, Matt, you didn't get to talk about
let's
Village.
go, Rusty. Let's go.
Yeah, no, me and you, we're the right motherfuckers here.
Whoa now.
But Matt, since you didn't get to talk much about Village, let's talk about Rift Apart and what made that game so great. Because man, I feel like that's the closest to that could be the closest to a perfect game I think I've ever played.
I'm going to talk about this from the very beginning. The moment you're starting up the game, I was amazed. So this was the first real next gen experience. I honestly felt like I was getting. Like the moment you boot up the game and it starts off with Ratchet in the parade, and you're just looking around, and during the conversations going on, you can walk around, take a look around. It's fantastic. Like there is not a single moment that my jaw was not dropped when I saw this. It was like watching a living, breathing, like I don't want to say Pixar movie. Everyone wants to say Pixar movies, but I mean it really was. It was just insane how it looked like I was watching a movie. And considering there actually is a Ratchet and Clank movie that came out, the game looks way better. So, but from playing all the Ratchet and Clank games, I love the series. I think that Insomniac has just made such an amazing cast of characters over the years with Ratchet and Clank themselves. Quark being as hilarious as ever, and then not just that, but they introduced new characters with Rivet, who just melds and so perfect with the world, and you just love her, you adore her so much, and they gave her such an amazing story. And the gameplay, it just never stops. It doesn't let you go. It's a perfect platformer. The standing out moments for me is just some of the reveals in the story with like Rivet's past and like what happened with her arm, and then you find out that the other robot, Kit, yep, is responsible for her, her distrust for robots. But I mean, at the end of the game, everything comes together, and you really feel so accomplished, and you just watch all these characters grow and develop friendships and relationships. And at the end, I want more Rivet. I love you, Ratchet, but come on, Rivet is amazing. Like the fact that they made the main character stand more off to the side and let the new character, the new Lombax, come in through. And honestly, I felt like it was her game and not so much of Ratchet's. The voice cast was hilarious. Dr. Nefarious, it was great to see him back. The level design was fantastic. There's so much variety, from like pirate themed levels to open desert wastelands. And then my thing that I have to talk about, the variety in weapons. Ratchet and Clank has always been so like they don't hold back with their weapons. They have so many different things that they, just their imagination runs wild with these weapons. Like I still can't get over. Like I'm thinking with the next iteration of Ratchet and Clank, how are they going to outdo what they've already done? But they always do, and I cannot wait to see like the future of the series.
So Thacker, you're the newest to Rift Apart of all of us because obviously you've beaten it most recently. Talk about what you think made this game great. Obviously, it came in at 4 on your list, which is still a really really high ranking. What do you think this game excelled at?
So this game excelled from continuing Ratchet and Clank stories. You get to see more of it throughout the entire series that has come to be, but Rift Apart just really brought it even further. And what really excelled in this was not only did we get the original characters that we've grown to love, like Skid and Quark, but also got to see counterparts of them and see complete opposites at that to really make this game excel. One thing that I have to agree with Matt on is the next Ratchet and Clank game, they're going to have such a challenge with weapon designs because we've gotten so much over the years with it of outrageous, crazy amazingness. And one gun that stands out and has continuously been there has been the Rhino, but this Rhino just stood out completely from having to get it and it not just being available from start of game and actually have to earn it. So having that, it was incredible. It honestly took #1 spot from my favorite Ratchet and Clanks, which was the Up Your Arsenal game itself, and has now become Rift Apart.
Kyle, when this game was being marketed, you told me this was your most hyped game of the year. How does it feel at this point in time to be right?
This game, I would say, is probably the only game this year that I would give a perfect score to. This game was 10 out of 10 in every department, in the sound design, in the graphics, in, the gameplay, the voice cast was so fantastic, dude. I mean, they really, really just went all out in every corner of this game. But can we please talk about my favorite part? The motherfucking ray tracing. Oh my god, dude. It was so beautiful seeing the light reflections coming off of the guns, or even like my favorite part was how they had little glints coming off of Clank as he was hanging off of the back of Rivet, or the few times he was with Ratchet, like there would be you pass by light poles or by different open sources where you could see these glints coming off of the guns or off of Ratchet's armor or off of Clank, off of buildings, off of windows. I mean, there was ray tracing everywhere. It's in everything. The ray tracing, it was so much ray tracing.
That's going to be the big meme. That's the meme of Side Mission right there.
Officially back. Captain Ray Tracing is made.
Holy crap!
You might need to change his name.
In all seriousness, I think Ratchet and Clank was probably the biggest surprise to me as a fan of platformers. I knew I was gonna like this game. I did not expect to all out love this game. I like platformers, and usually if you give me one, I'll play it and beat it, and I'll like it. This game was, it was a perfect game. I have to agree with Matt. It was the first next-gen experience that I felt, and even as much as I loved Returnal, it had its flaws where I feel like Ratchet and Clank really didn't. I mean, most of them I think could be subjective because there's nothing to complain about when it comes to this game. I loved it from beginning to end, and the thing that I want to point out the most in seriousness is the cutscenes, how they just flowed with the gameplay. Like Ratchet would literally just show up somewhere and then boom, you're in a cutscene. Not like, it was cut and, somewhere else this is going on. It was that cutscene happening with whatever you just did going on in the background. Like, I loved it. It was almost like a one take, with the exception of a few cuts in, some of the cutscenes. It's not something you see a lot in games.
I agree.
Yeah.
When you were hyping this game up at launch, I remember cautiously being like, I'll see how this game is, because for any reference here, the only Ratchet and Clank experience I've had was the PS4 game.
Yikes.
Ooh.
Ouch.
And it sucked. So, because of that, I feel the need real quick, to close this out. I feel the need to tell 3 quick stories. So the first one is when the game first came out, and we recorded our review for it. At that point in time, I had already platinumed the game, and I had already beaten the game twice. And I said, and Kyle and Matt can both quote this probably, I said that I'd probably play through it one more time, take it slow, just to enjoy the story, really take it all in, enjoy my time with the characters one last time. Spoiler alert, obviously it was not only one more playthrough, but I'll get to that part in a minute. The second story that I want to tell is, again, Kyle and Matt were here for all of this. So there was a Sunday where I was bored, and I randomly texted the group chat at like 11 a.m. and I said, "Hey, starting at noon, from now to the end of the day, how many times do you guys think I can beat Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart?"
Oh no.
And I think that randomly Kyle was like, "Oh, you can beat it 8 times." Matt was like, "Yeah, you can maybe beat it twice." And I ended up beating it 3 times from noon to midnight. And I started at noon. The first playthrough went from noon to 3:30. Took a break to eat an early dinner. And then I from 5 to 7:45 was the second playthrough. So it was actually 45 minutes faster somehow. I think I watched some cutscenes in the first one. And then my last playthrough started at 10, and I think I started at 9, and I was done by 11:15. So again, like, the age got faster, so I basically speedrun the game. And then the last story I want to tell. This was the 10th time I beat the game. I did not only play the game 3 times, and I did not only beat it 3 times. I beat it 10 times, most I've ever beaten a game. Kyle had an idea for me, and it was a great idea, and it was an even better idea for at the time, because for those who don't know me, in my previous job, I began hating the place I worked at, because I was just unhappy to go there. I don't want to say that I fell into depression, kind of, because I feel like that kind of over dramatizes it. But I was in kind of a darker place, just wasn't very happy. It wasn't anything to do with really just, I had friends at the job. I liked people there, but I just wasn't really happy. And Kyle had an idea for my 10th playthrough to play the game 1 level a day, and each level to go into photo mode, take a photo, and put it on Twitter and describe what I liked about that level. And that, I've probably never told you guys, but that me doing that got me out of that dark place. It got me out of that darker place. It got me to where I was a little bit happier each day, because I knew I had that to look forward to.
Hell yeah.
Believe it or not, just shortly after I finished that playthrough, for those who don't know, Jennifer Hale, one of my favorite voice actresses, she's actually the voice of Rivet, who I thought should have been Performance of the Year, was right up there with Giancarlo Esposito from Far Cry 6.
Yes.
Kyle and Matt both know, and Thacker, you probably know too, that I had been, doing the Streamily, the prints, the signed prints that I've been buying. I had been waiting for months for her to do one for Rivet. The day I beat it, not an hour after I finished the playthrough, she announced that she was doing the signing.
That's destiny right there.
Yeah.
And now I have, and of course I went to Thacker. I bought a sealed copy of Rift Apart. It's now framed, hanging in my loft right now. I absolutely love this game. Insomniac should really, really be praised for putting out a game this quality, because I think that in
No,
gaming there's
totally.
a lot of negativity in gaming nowadays. We saw that a lot last year with Last of Us Part 2. We saw a lot of that. And there's disappointing games that happen every year. That's part of gaming. I'm sure games that we wish were on this list that didn't make this list. I'm sure that at the beginning of the year, if you had told us that Battlefield 2042 was going to be a gigantic fucking mess at
Yikes.
launch, we would
Oof.
not have believed that.
Big goof.
But in a year that had as many great games, such as Resident Evil Village, Deathloop, Halo Infinite, Far Cry 6, Metroid Dread, Returnal, Mario Party Superstars, Scarlet Nexus, and Monster Hunter Stories 2, Rift Apart was a truly magnificent achievement, and I am incredibly thankful that I gave this franchise a second chance after playing a shitty PS4. So, monologue aside, this has been a fantastic episode. I have loved being able to do this with you guys. Before we go, real quick, we're going to go ahead and make an announcement that we've been waiting to make for a few weeks. As everyone knows, Side Mission has been very, very silent the last couple of months. We've all been busy. Life has kind of hit us all a little bit differently. You know, I think we all work very, very busy jobs. Thacker's about to work an even busier part of his job. But the reason we have Thacker here is not just because he gave us a list. Beginning in January, Side Mission is going to have a different look. Kyle has obviously got some responsibilities that keep him from being able to fully participate in Side Mission full time. He'll still be around in a part-time thing. Kyle's going to be on whatever episode he wants. So God of War Ragnarok, we already know he's going to be on that one. Big facts.
Oh,
but
yeah.
beginning in January, Matt and Thacker are going to be joining me full time, and that will be Side Mission moving forward. I'm super excited to get things going. 2022 is going to be a massive year. I think we can all agree on that.
Oh, yeah. It's going to start
Most
big.
definitely.
So, with that being said, everybody, from all of us here at Side Mission, we hope that everybody has a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday Season, a safe and fun New Year's. For the boys, Kyle Lynch, Matt Beck, Alex Thacker, I'm Rusty Ellis. Thank you for listening, and we'll see y'all in the new year.